Hey everyone, and welcome to Half and Half, the show where we're half brothers,
Who half agree.
half the time,
Yeah, we do.
always. No, just half the time, 50%.
Yeah, accurate. That's half.
Well, I said always, so I had to clarify
Oh,
that
I
it's
didn't hear
not.
that. My
Yeah,
fault. My fault.
it's all right.
Sure.
But so this episode, we wanted to go take a little deeper dive into our background. Our intro video I thought was good, but we wanted to just share a little bit more information, and I wanted to start with a little bit of my background. And so, obviously, we're half brothers,
Who half agree. No,
and so I was adopted when I was a baby, and I had another family, obviously, and grew up. I think I was 18 before I met Justin, and we're ever since then. It's the rest is history,
That's right.
I remember the first time I ever saw Justin. I was going to school. I was going to college in Justin's hometown, and that's kind of how I met my birth mother. And so we met up, and then we went out and we went out to eat and hung out a few times, and it just kind of caught up for the past 18 years,
Yeah.
And then one day my mother was like, "Hey, Justin's got a high school football game. Do you want to go watch it?" And I was like, "Sure, let's go." And so we went up there. I was in the stands, and apparently our mom told Justin that I was going to be there. And so I caught him he was on the field. I think you were on the bench at that point. But not
No one plays every play, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's football. It's football. Nobody. Yeah, I wasn't trying to take a stab at you. I was just explaining.
I was on the sideline, which I normally am at. That's right.
Maybe if you got better.
I actually played. I played butt back in football. Do you know that position?
Get your butt back in the seat.
Yeah, it's the position where you say, "Coach, can I go in?" He says, "Get your butt back."
But so I saw Justin, and I saw him just looking around everywhere, and then I'm just staring at him, and me and him lock eyes, and I just give this, and he gives an awkward wave back, and then like I said, the rest is history. It's
so funny.
It's a fun thing to look back on, and it's crazy to think that we went from awkward waves to here we are today.
To awkward podcast.
Awkward podcast. The awkwardness doesn't change, just
the platform.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so, so part of why we think this me and Justin's discussion is relevant and good is because, like we say, we half agree half the time, and by half agree, we really arrive at the same conclusions a lot of times.
It's true.
But we don't necessarily agree on why we get there.
Yeah.
And so Justin in the first video had said that he's a youth minister for a church, and I actually am an atheist, and so it's
You
just.
never told me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to break the news. I'm coming out. But yeah, and so me and him have had that discussion millions of times, and yeah, to a point to where it's not that we argue or anything over it. It's just that it's gotten old, and the same thing keeps getting said over and over again, and nobody's changing anybody's mind. And so yeah, we stay away from that topic, but we like diving into the other topics, things that are relevant to politics, things that are relative to morality and ethic and stuff, what's best for humanity and stuff like that. And obviously this is all theoretical, but we think that we
Yeah, Yeah, no, so like I really super enjoy our conversations because, like you said, we get to the same place, we get there really differently, and I think that makes me more empathetic of a person as well. And I'm a better listener now because like I can kind of hear what someone's trying to say, because now I'm exposed to a completely different worldview. I think that's really good for us.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, and so like part of part of the reason why I wanted to start this podcast is I wanted to have like just a positive voice out there, and just like I
Yeah,
said, we both like talking about like the difficult subjects, and come at things that I would say in a really, I would, for lack of a better word, compassionate point of view.
mm,
I try to like make sure that like uh that the well-being of others is like accounted for whenever I'm
yeah,
trying to like put forward a point.
yeah.
And yeah, and so I just want to keep a positive have a positive voice and keep a positive attitude for like challenging subjects that most people try to, like I said, stay away from. And on top of that, I want to try to build like a positive community based around this podcast as well,
Mhm.
that can discuss topics with each other and even us as well. Um, and like I was saying earlier, though, that I try to approach like these topics from an empathetic point of view, and like with, what was the word I used?
I don't remember, but we can say like a charitable view. It's not the word you
Okay,
said, but
yeah,
it's a synonym.
I almost said that. Yeah, that's what.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. So like I try to come at it with a like a charitable point of view, and um also like I've been to
Compassionate.
compassionate. That was it.
Compassionate, yeah.
And I gotta plug my headset in real quick because it's about to die, and it's like yelling at me. It's like, headset needs to recharge in my
Right.
ear. While I'm trying to talk, I'm gonna knock my glasses off while I do it.
This is good.
Yeah. Hey mom, look at me. I'm really cool on camera. But also not only just like a compassionate point of view, but I've been to like really interested in debate for a long time. When I was growing up, and I started having like challenges with like Christianity and stuff, because I grew up in the church. My family took me to church for, I think I went for 18 years of my life. I wasn't a Christian that entire time, but I went because I wanted to make them happy and I didn't want to like upset them, and you get the gist. And so I also like, whenever I'm approaching topics, I try to come at it with the most reasonable way that I think can like change somebody's mind, or at least like influence them to like look at things from a different perspective. Even if their like conclusion doesn't change, at least make the
Right.
process change.
Yeah.
Because I think fixing that process can really, it may not change your conclusion on just that one thing alone, but it can like influence like your decisions on like uh, viewpoints that you have in the future.
Sure. I mean, yeah, like I think that's like to an extent that's obvious, right? But putting it into practice, I think, is the more complex part, of just realizing that like this conversation's worth it, right? It's good for us to dive into this, not for the sake of. It sounds like something just broke. Are you
It
okay?
did.
Yeah, I think like what you're saying is obvious in principle. Like, of course, you want to have a conversation for the sake of like if you're going to disagree, it'd be good to have some sort of change, from each other, I guess. But I think just like the overall view is that this conversation is worth it because at least you're exposed to a new idea.
Yeah.
In a conversation to me, like it involves talking and listening. So if I'm trying to talk and I can tell they're not listening to what I'm saying, I'm probably gonna bail, right? There's no sense at that point, because I want to have a conversation. I want to converse with you, and that's a two-way street. And so if I can tell that they're listening, sure, let's talk about whatever. And if I'm in a good place where I can listen to someone telling me, something I vehemently disagree with, that's great. Let's have that conversation.
Yeah.
That way, even if you're not going to change my mind, right? Like you and I, like you said earlier, like I have not yet made you a Christian, right? God's grace has not yet been experienced by you. No, I'm just kidding. And I am not yet, convinced that God is not real. We're both, still on our viewpoints on that. But I think we've both become better people from our conversations, and I
Yes.
think we've, and I think that's a tremendous growth.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to say just on what you were just saying about like you look at a conversation as like listening and conversing or like and talking,
Yeah,
and that's a big problem that I see in like a lot of the conversations that are going on is that instead of like approaching conversations with like empathy to the other side, we want to start conversations with aggression and like just really
yeah,
push our viewpoint into in like we want to push our viewpoint into people instead of like reasoning them to the conclusion. And that might not be the
yeah.
best way to put it, but you know what I mean.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And like I'm on Twitter all the time. Twitter's my main source of anything. But I see straw man fallacy as like the main thing, man. Like for example, I mentioned to someone I was a Christian, they're like, "Oh, so thank goodness you were born in America, and mommy and daddy took you to church, and just like if you don't, if you thank God you weren't born in the Middle East and you go to hell." And I was like, dude, like, whoa, 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 right? Like
A lot of stuff
this
in
like,
there.
right, and like these views of God that aren't universally shared by Christians, right? Like, just like there's a lot of levels there, right?
Yeah.
And assuming that no one in the Middle East is, so there's just a lot of things that are incorrect about it, right? But I think you see that all the time in culture today of just like, how can I put your point as stupidly as possible, especially in the public platforms, to make
Yeah.
it seem like you are just a flaming idiot, right? And then I can come across as smarter because I'm pushing you down. And I think like in our genuine conversations, and hopefully through this podcast, you'll see like even if I disagree, I'm still trying to raise up your viewpoint, right? And I'm not just doing that for the sake of whatever. I'm doing it because it matters in conversation. Like I have
Yeah.
to give worth to the words that you're saying, and
Yeah.
I think that makes conversation a lot more valuable.
And there is a little bit to like say that we've had conversations enough that we kind of trust that the
Yeah.
information being provided isn't just completely ridiculous, you know?
Right. Yeah. Like I'm sure throughout this we'll tell stories of terrible conversations we've had. You know.
I'm sure so.
Um, yeah. And it's just I don't know. I think it's really important. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to go over? Your like background or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, because saying I'm a Christian is pretty broad, right?
Hmm.
So especially since I said I work at a Church of Christ, which like sure I'm sure there's tons of people that have been hurt by Church of Christ, and I'm sure there's tons of people that have experienced some negative things from that, and I'm sorry for that. I would say that I don't subscribe like to anything, I guess, of like a certain denomination. Like I find myself as a pretty free thinker, especially within my Christian worldview. And I think you can. I hope you can agree with that. I'd like to hear
Yeah.
you. Seeing how I subscribe to things. I think I more subscribe to like, okay, that makes sense, right? It's like that. That's kind of where I land. And I'm okay with kind of being on my own viewpoints on a lot of things. Like I don't need a lot of people to agree with me on that. Um, so I think that's just important to say. Other than that, though, oh yeah, I am a Christian, and it influences pretty much everything I do. It's a huge part of my ethic. But I really enjoy listening. So I don't have much else to add. I think you've done a really good. Like your background's way cooler than mine, right? Like, oh, I was raised by my mom and dad for a little bit. They both got divorced. They got divorced from each other when I was really young, but they both lived in the same town and had split custody of me, right? So it's kind of like, oh yeah, there's not a whole lot to go in there. My dad's on his third marriage, and I officiated that marriage, which is cool, right? Like there's value there.
You
And
officiated my marriage too.
yes, success. First one I ever did, in and out like in 7.5 minutes, but we did it. And
Justin watched
I'm
a lot of Tech Nine before he
yeah,
did our before he did
yeah,
our
it was
wedding.
rough. That's okay. We had a good time. So yeah, but that's okay. I'm down to move forward.
No,
On
but
that.
genuinely, the wedding was really, really good, and
Thank
I just have to like give you crap about it
you.
because it's really
Yeah.
funny.
Is there a video out there of that thing?
I doubt it.
Yeah, but it only takes like 2 MB, so it's how quick it was.
It's good stuff. So yeah, I think the topic that we wanted to talk about today, though,
Yeah,
uh, was this idea of the stimulus checks going on.
right.
Uh, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess like quickly, the stimulus check is $1,400 to most Americans, right? Yeah, I think your personal income has to be less than 80,000 or something like that, and then like household income under 150 or something like that. So you're gonna get this check, or you're gonna get it directly deposited, which is awesome. I think we're getting it at varied times, which I think is kind of awkward. But so I guess that's what the stimulus check is. I think that it's cool. I like that they're doing something because of so many people losing jobs and so many people being put in really tough situations. Millions of people applying for unemployment. Um, and so I think the government has an obligation to life, which is why we're in this position, right? Like they do have an obligation to preserve the life of the people to the best of their abilities. And I completely agree, for what it's worth, with their decision to social distance and isolate and all that stuff. I think it could have been done sooner. We can get to all that on another time because we're here to talk about the stimulus check itself. Um, but I think that it's really interesting because I was hashtag Yang Gang, man. I was all about Andrew Yang, who had something like this. Where he would give us, every American that was like a legal resident would get, $1,000 a month. Awesome, right? And there were so many people that equivalated that to socialism or communism, depending on how informed they are on the isms. But they called it one of the two, right? And they were so against it, right? That's a trigger word for Americans, right? Like, I'm an American, thus I like democracy and I like the way that I like capitalism, right? And so if you are a socialist or you're a capitalist, you might as well be the devil in the flesh, and that's terrible, right? Um, and I think it's cool that it's done in Alaska already. They already get I don't remember exactly what theirs is called, but they get
I don't
a
either.
stipend. They get a stipend of some kind every single month once you've lived there for 3 years, which I think is also really cool. So it's being done in America, right? And then you had the freedom dividend, which Andrew Yang brought up, and it was like $1,000 a month. And I think we're seeing now that there's value in that. And I think that's really cool. Is that people are at least, I don't know. It's just so funny to see people saying
Yeah.
this. Like I see, I live in Texas and I work at a conservative church, so I'm very aware of the right wing way of viewing a lot of this, and
So,
just these Oh, good, yeah,
oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
it happens.
so why do you think that people are more okay with this now than they were for like Yang back whenever he was running? And just to clarify, I did support Yang, but I was like pretty doubtful that he was actually going to make it as a president. I think that it's a good policy as we can see now, um, but why do you think that people like what's kind of like the split in people's mind whenever we're talking about stimulus checks versus like the freedom dividend? Uh,
Right.
why do some people look at or why does everybody look at the stimulus check as like a necessity, but it's socialist or communist if you want to get the freedom dividend?
Right. Yeah. So I think first up is when he walking a mile in her shoes. Right. It's kind of the old saying: if you'd walk a mile in my shoes, you'd understand what I'm going through. And I think there were a lot of people that were living paycheck to paycheck, but were middle class. And so, like, well, I don't need that. I have my job, and my insurance is tied to my job, and I work hard, and I'm a good worker, so I'm not gonna get laid off because I'm always on time. And this isn't a problem. And then you start learning that there are things outside of your control that happen in the world. And so this has happened, and I think that people are understanding now that some things happen, right?
Yeah.
And it's not always it's not always an individual's fault for the pain that they're experiencing. And I think a lot of people had been really, I want to say blessed, but that's not the word I'm looking for. Really, just not
Privileged.
privileged. Yeah, there it is. Like, just really privileged to not experience the necessity of getting, a stable income and what that does for people. I also think that it's interesting that I haven't seen the question of, well, how are they going to pay for that, right? Like, talk to my
Yeah, it's
conservative
crazy.
friends down here, right? Like that, yeah, that's not brought up. Where whenever I first was like, oh, have y'all heard of Andrew Yang? And people were like, no, like, right, yeah, it's fair. And I would tell them like, yeah, one of the coolest things about him is the freedom dividend, and I talked to them about it, and their first question was always, well, how are we going to pay for that, right? And always, and I was like, well, you can actually go on his website and do research, and you could actually find out on your own, instead of making me verbalize and memorize and all do all this other work. I'm on my own on top of the job that I have. But I just think it's interesting that I've talked to a lot of my conservative friends here, and that question hasn't been brought up necessarily. They're just like, no,
Yeah.
we need it. It's a necessity. Like, I lost my job. Like, not me personally, but that's what they
Yeah.
say. And I'm like, yeah, like, that's the whole point. That's why this is a good thing. It's because there's a lot of people in fickle situations, including yourself. You just didn't realize it.
Yeah, it's weird that now like people are like willing to overlook like where's the money coming from. But
Right.
yeah, just like going back to Andrew Yang though, like the reason why the $1,000 a month is so good, and there may be better solutions out there for any of the things that it covers, but I
Sure.
think it's like one of the most inclusive like policy positions that any
Yeah.
president has come through
Yeah.
with.
The
It
closest
covers
the closest thing in all inclusivity would be the what was it, Ben Carson with the 999 plan,
I don't even know anything about
which
that.
yeah, I mean, I didn't, for what it's worth, I didn't super agree with it, but that was, it was very inclusive. It was like, we're going to charge 9% tax on this, and this, and that's kind of how it goes. And oh, all right. I
Okay.
like that. I liked how easy tax, like the tax would be the easiest thing in the world at that point. Like, oh, it's 9% of my earnings. All right. See ya.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, but yeah, and it's just interesting to think about why again, like why we're okay with this now, but we weren't okay with it back when Andrew Yang proposed it. Whenever like all the things that are happening now is just happening to everybody. It's not just happening to the impoverished people, because even though they didn't have like the flu to, or I mean, sorry, they didn't have coronavirus to contend with. They had the flu. They have medical bills. They have like other things that pop up. And like a saying that you once told to me, and I don't know where you heard it from, but poverty charges interest is a thing that you had talked to me about before. It's like if you have like a bad tooth, like yeah, you can go get that fixed right now for like a couple $100s. But if you can't get that couple $100s together and get it fixed now it becomes a root canal, or it becomes like some bigger infection that you have to pay thousands of dollars on now. It's
Right.
like, and that's a great perspective to put on it, because I don't think a lot of people think of it that way.
Yeah.
But with $1,000 a month, now that's not even an issue, because $1,000 a month isn't just like, oh, the people are going to go buy TVs and stuff. Yeah, people are going to do that anyway, but it's basically like, it's not Medicare for all, but it's really close, because it gives you extra money to spend on medical bills.
Yeah.
It helps like the housing, like and
Market.
like yeah, I mean, like, not I didn't mean to like say housing market, but like it helps people like have houses or like pay for rent,
Right.
like it helps
Right.
people
No,
not
for
be
sure.
homeless.
Right. Yeah,
And
which is also a huge deal. And
yeah,
informed taxpayers should care a lot about that.
and it helps people like stay out of poverty.
Yeah.
And people keep wanting to like rely on this, like, I'm getting a little more into the weeds off the stimulus check, so sorry,
Right.
um but uh people want to focus on like this trickle down economics and stuff like that. But if like more people have money in their pocket and they're buying more things, then the companies have to like supply more things for the people to buy, which increases jobs in that market, and then which
Right.
makes the company do better, which makes the people do better,
Yeah.
or the people make the company do better, which make the people do better.
Yeah.
It's kind of like win 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 win, all in a step
Right.
stool, instead of just like the companies win and everybody below loses.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I don't know, just bringing that background to like the specific stimulus package, right?
Hmm.
Um, as I saw I saw a thread today actually talking about all these people are just going to go buy TVs. And like, sure, I think fiscal responsibility matters. I think that people should be wiser with them. Like you were going to see a lot of people that were just complaining about not having a job and like not being able to pay rent go and buy something or put a down payment on a car. You're going to see that, right?
Hmm.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. We can dive into the cycle of poverty. We can dive into mental illness. We can dive into all these other things at another point. But for the point right now of like, what does it do? It helps it stabilizes the economy, which is a huge deal. I think it gives people the opportunity to stay up to date on their debts, right? Because like, yeah, sure, like it may be illegal for your landlord to say, sorry, you didn't pay rent, I'm going to kick you out. Sure, that may be illegal. It's not illegal for them to be like, we have to charge more from now on. Like that's not illegal,
Yeah.
unless you like, especially at the end of your contract, right? And it's just like, oh, from now on, rent's just more expensive until they recover from this 7 years down the road, right?
Yeah.
Well, by then they don't even care because people are still buying it, so they're just going to keep the price high. It's a cycle that we started. And so getting people money now where they can stay up to date on all those bills is hugely important, because like the increase in debt is not good for anybody,
No.
right? Like personal debt isn't good, because then you have people making payments that they can't really afford, so then they buy less, so it doesn't stimulate the economy, and it just becomes a huge, it's a snowball, right? It just gets more and more ground to it. So the stimulus checks are. I was very impressed with with it being a Republican DC right now. and then being willing to, put this into effect and being willing to spend that money, I think is very, very important. So I really have been impressed with. I think their decisions are late a lot of times,
Yeah.
but I have been impressed, especially in the last like 15 days of
Well,
like since April started.
yeah, and just to bring it up, the so like whenever the stimulus package was first like introduced, and the Democrats were like prolonging the thing, there's a
Right.
lot of people that were mad about it, and so I looked into it, and actually the first iteration of the stimulus package, or it might not have been the first, but it was like one of the early ones, had a stipulation in it that anybody that made less than $75,000 did not receive the stimulus package.
Oh gosh, so it's only for rich people?
And so it was literally affecting
What?
the opposite amount, like the opposite group of people than it needed to. And so that's why Democrats were fighting it for so long. And I don't agree with everything Democrats do. I don't even
Of course
consider
not.
myself a
Yeah.
Democrat, but I tend to agree more with the left than I do the right.
Look, Matt, we live in an identity politics world. I really need you to subscribe to one train of thought always and defend it no matter what. Okay, that's where we're at.
Green Party or nothing.
Jill Stein, you're back. She probably needs. She probably. It's time for a bailout. She's probably in jail.
Oh.
That girl goes so hard. I love Jill Stein. So much respect for her, dude. No one is willing. I don't know any politician that's willing to go like toe the line for their beliefs like she does.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know anything about her other than her name and that she's part of the Green Party.
That's all you need to know. No, her Dakota Access Pipeline stuff was really funny. Not funny. It was really. She really stood up for what she believed in, which was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you. But dang it, I forgot what I was going to get into.
No, okay.
Do you have something else that you wanted to add on there?
No, not necessarily, but for the sake of conversation, let's assume that you're going to get this stimulus package. Let's assume you get it right now. You get an update from your phone that says $1,200 has been deposited into your bank account by the Department of Treasury of the United States of America. Right? All right. Boom. $1,200. What would that look like for you? Like, how would that impact your life?
I would pay all my bills.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't
that's
even cover
awesome.
all of them.
Dang. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. 'Cause,
Right now I'm
you
actually.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off again. Sorry, look at me.
Go for it.
But right now I'm actually working on getting the. As I said in the first episode, I own a restaurant in Texas. I'm working on getting the payroll protection program, which is a grant that's based on like the average amount of like payroll that you do. And I just finalized all that stuff the other day. I'm hoping that it goes through.
Yeah.
That's going to help me tremendously. That's going to help me more than the $1,200. I mean, the $1,200 is going to help, trust me, but
Yeah.
that's going to help so much, and it's going to give me my employees the comfortability of knowing that like that like I have more hours to give in that sense, and so they can pay their
Right.
bills easier and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's this entire thing has been a little crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think that's, a long conversation for another episode, probably, to really talk about the effects. I think because obviously people talk about the money and stuff, but like for example, March 2020, so the month that just ended, was the first March since March 2004 where there was not a school shooting.
Wow.
It's like, okay, like that there's some psychological impacts going on right now, right? With just realizing, like, being able to take a real deep look at the world that we are living in, the world that we're kind of removed from right now in a weird way while living in it, and just being able as a society to decide what we're going to do going forward. I think is a really interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, and you see like a lot of people like really during this time like doing stuff to help out. I was working on something for a while around my hometown of I got a couple of businesses together, and we basically offered like 5 meal coupons a piece, and
Yeah.
then I took that to the Center of Life, which is like kind of like it's like a charity organization for like impoverished people or people that can't afford food, and so they supply meals for them. And I was talking to the lady, and they at first they would do 2 food drives every week, and then they got an increase of about 100 to 150 people after COVID-19 hit, and so they had to reduce down to once a week. and
Wow.
were just grasping at everything that they could. And
Yeah,
so
of course.
we did that, and then I'm working with a church right now that is basically ordering a ton of pizzas, and
That's awesome. That's
and
good.
yeah, I'm giving them a pretty reduced price for them, uh, and then they're basically just doing a food giveaway at the church, and just like you drive through and they give you a
That's
couple
awesome.
slices, and then they go through. And so like, yeah, I was
Wow. Good for
happy to
them.
help out with them, and yeah, hopefully they just keep it going. But it sucks, you know. This
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
situation sucks, but it's good to see like the positivity coming out, and like people like actually like the people that are able to help are helping.
Right.
But that's a kind of another like topic, though. It kind of goes along with like
Yeah.
why was like the stimulus check okay but not Andrew Yang saying okay. But why do you think that this
Right.
is like people are coming out of the woodworks to like help people and like that are hurt now but weren't
Yeah.
coming out of the woodworks to help people that were hurt before?
Why do I think that people are doing that?
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of parts to this, right? I think A is that society, specifically social media platforms, have put like a moral obligation almost on people to help,
Yeah.
which is positive-ish, right? I think it brings about something good, which I think there's value in that, but I don't know if it's a good thing that people are like trashing Jeff Bezos for not getting rid of for not giving a salary to his workers. Um, like where I think that should be almost admired for the ones who did, rather than bashing the one who didn't. Let's just overly praise the ones that did,
Yeah.
because that's not normal, right? It's Jeff Bezos. Like that's I don't know what his salary is, but I'm guessing it's more than you and mine combined, right? I'm guessing.
Just
Go ahead, right?
probably. I don't know.
Conservative figures here, right? A
I
minister,
mean,
a minister, and a small pizza shop owner. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Chauncey.
Right. Oh gosh. No, so I think that's just like it's sure, like it's cool, but it shouldn't be expected. It shouldn't be morally obliged to do that. I think that charity should always be applauded when it happens, you
Hmm.
know? Now, I do think that people have ethical obligations, right? Like Jeff Bezos is so rich, right? But he also does do a lot. There's a whole list of charity things that he's involved in.
Hmm.
So I think I'm getting a little off track, but the conversation piece of what was your exact question again? I'm sorry.
It was why are people more inclined to help people now but weren't as inclined to
Right.
help people before?
Right. So the social media platforms, yeah, having that push, that makes sense to me again. And then I think outside of that, I think that there are a lot of people who now I think the degrees of separation of pain has decreased. So
Hmm.
like for example, right,
That's
to
a good
say
point.
oh thank you. For me to say someone has been affected by like I don't know, mesothelioma, right? Like that degree of separation would be so much. So I don't care about those commercials that come on during the Price is Right. Like for real.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why I've been watching this. I'm gonna get up and go get a snack because I'm at home anyway at 11 a.m. Right? Um, but where I think now it's like, oh, COVID-19. Oh, okay. My friend lost her job because of that. Oh, okay. Maybe I lost my job. Not me personally, but oh, my wife literally did. The place where she works is shut down. She's not getting an income right now, right? You start looking at it of, oh, my grandparents could get this, and that could be disastrous, right? And the odds are
Yeah.
not tremendously high, but much more high than they ever have been before. And so I think the degrees of separation of pain has greatly decreased. And I think when that happens, people are always more welcome. Everyone wants to help whenever it's their sister or their brother or their child that's hurting, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, that's what I have to say about that. What about you?
So
What do you think?
I mean, I agree with a lot of that. Of just uh, people weren't thinking about it before, but now they are.
Yeah, yeah,
But my question, I guess, like my question to myself or you even, is like, why? What steps can we take in the future to make sure that people like continue to look at the people that are like hurt, or like impoverished and like that need help? Like, what steps can we take as a society to like make sure that we're not just helping people in times of everybody's crisis, but actually looking at like smaller times of crisis for like individuals or families or like minority groups of people.
Yeah, it's a solid question. And we could brainwash them, right? That'd be option one. No, actually, okay. This is a thought. So this is first time verbalizing this ever for me right now. Is this? So I'm gonna phrase it as a question since I'm not 100. Since I am just now verbalizing it. Is it possible that so from the Great Depression, right? When the Great Depression happened, from that came this major American mindset of like pull yourself up by your bootstraps because I did, right? And so that next generation after that was very like go get them, a lack of empathy, my way to the top, right? Is it possible that not Generation Z, but the generation after Generation Z, right? Like 5-year-olds and younger right now, and then the next 15 years of kids after that, are they going to be like the boomers essentially of an individualistic mindset of like less charitable, more critical of where I'm spending my money because I'm being raised in this economic, depletion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it kind of drives back to like the kind of like the state of politics at the moment. We
Yeah,
see a lot more like uh, we see a lot more like radicalization at the moment. But we also see a lot more like of people like actually like knowing that there's a problem.
right.
The
Yeah,
difference is like why they think the problem is there and like how to fix it.
yeah,
But most people agree on that like this is a problem and this needs to be fixed. We just disagree on like how to do it.
yeah. Well, I think that's crucial. Like, I'm not trying to steal your time there, but like the I think it's the fact that we agree that this is a problem, right? Because then you talk about houselessness, right? People don't agree that that's a problem. Like
Yeah,
to an
which is
extent, like they're
unfortunate.
like, right, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, houselessness is a problem. Let's gerrymander them and get them the heck out of here, right? And it's like, oh, that's not great, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah, the other side, which I don't think either side it correctly approaches poverty, but just like of being charitable and like, but housing first initiatives, right? And so all these other good things.
Not to cut
But
you
yeah,
off, but I wanted you to
yeah,
explain. I want you to explain why you say houselessness instead of homelessness,
yeah.
because I
That's
think it's
fine.
important.
Yeah, I did too. It's kind of why I say it, I guess. So like for example, if you lived in a tent underneath the bridge on South First or yeah, whatever, that was where you lived. That's where you slept every night. That's the place where your community, all slept. You would probably call that your home. And so it's not that they don't, people that experience houselessness, they don't have a lack of a home most of the time. They have a lack of a house. And so they still have their community, still have a place that they have, shelter. Um, and so, yeah, I think it's just important to recognize that they still have a lot of those things. They just don't have a house.
Yeah, I think I really do think it's a good distinction to make. But
Yeah.
I didn't mean to make you like lose your train of thought. But
No.
I just wanted to make sure that um, if there were people that were wondering that we explained it for them.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But yeah, like you were saying, I think you had some really key words when you said like people are acknowledging all that this is a problem, and then
Hmm.
like we have different ways to fix it. Let's figure out the best way as a unified. Okay, this is a good thing. Let's do it. Right.
Yeah, I was kind of like
I think that's good.
brainstorming out loud because originally why I even started talking about that is because you were saying that do you think this next generation is going to be brought up as like unempathetic and pull yourself up from your bootstraps type of way, and like obviously nobody knows, but yeah,
Right.
I don't know, but
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to paint boomers poor. Like they're extremely hard workers, right? And there's a lot of value in that. And so like, I just to clarify,
yeah,
I've got friends that are boomers, right? Like 100%. That's not a terrible thing to be one.
but yeah, I don't. It's I don't know. Like it's
Yeah.
just an interesting topic to think about, but not one that I'm like I have a good enough like understanding of it to like speak an opinion on. I guess.
Right. No, yeah. And I do a lot of um generational studies. So I mean, that's something I care about, I guess. And
Yeah.
it's directly affiliated with my job. So it's something I end up focusing a little bit more.
So as the
Um,
expert in this field,
wow, no,
what are your
please,
thoughts?
please no. As someone who briefly studies people who are experts, no. And so I guess bringing this all back around to like really focusing on like the stimulus package and where this is all coming from. Like I really do believe that the stimulus package is an ethical response to a problem that
Hmm.
people, I think, and I want to keep bringing that home. I think you really did it. Your words were really important when you said it's a problem that everybody experiences, and everyone's like acknowledging that is a problem. I think that's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. And it just, I don't know. Like it just makes me like think, not to just keep saying the same thing over and over again, but it really just makes me think of like why it is a big deal now and not before.
Hmm.
Um, it even like reminds me of, again, another time that you told me a story. This is how much I pay attention whenever you talk. Um, you told me a story about this lady that was talking, and she was talking about the opioid crisis, I believe, in like Ohio or
Hmm.
something.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
she was saying how many people die. It was like 300 people die every day from opioid overdose or something like that, or like
yeah,
150. I don't know, something. A big number, a large number of people die every day from opioid
yeah,
overdose, and that's the equivalent to like a 757 full of people
yeah.
crashing and that many people dying. It's like if we had a 757 crash every single day,
Right.
it would be all over the news. Like we'd be
People
like,
would do
"What the
something
heck's
about
going on?"
it. Right.
But just because it's like drug addicts, we don't. We're just like whatever, you know. Which that's
Yeah.
another discussion for another day as well.
Sure, yeah, empathy for the other. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that deserves at least a 30-minute conversation. Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah,
But
do you, so how do you, I guess like before we wrap it up, I wanted to ask one more question
mhm.
is how do you feel about stimulus package? Do you think it should be done again? Do you think it's something that should be a one hitter quitter? What's kind of your imagination for this going forward?
So I do believe it's going to happen again. I don't know
Yeah.
how many times it's going to happen again. I guess it just depends on the empathy of the government, not the actual situation that the society is in.
Right.
Because I think we're going to be in a pretty crap society or a situation in our society for a little while, longer than another month. But yeah, I think that the government should do something to help out. And the stimulus package may not be the, again, like it's kind of like what I was saying with Andrew Yang. It may not be the best solution, but it is a solution that is helping the problem. But there may be other solutions that come up in the future that work better than the one that we currently have. Something that I was listening to, I don't even know where I heard it from, but a guy was talking about how we don't need to like put the government more in debt. What we should just do is like um, cancel all like overdraft or like basically make it to where you can just constantly overdraft your account again and again and again and again and put yourself into debt basically, but you don't have like an overdraft like bottom like floor. You can just keep overdrafting, and so that
Yeah.
gives you the ability to build yourself back up without putting
Yeah.
the government in debt. And like it gives businesses the ability to like pick themselves back up, I guess.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think you have a huge question is like, is personal debt better than governmental debt? Right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
I don't
I'd
know.
almost be tempted to say no, but
Well,
I don't know.
you would
Yeah.
say that, but at the same time, like, um, I guess like it feels like government debt doesn't even matter. Um, but yeah, I think we've gotten enough off the subject now. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, but I think it's important. I'm glad we talked about it. And we
yeah.
even had a little bit of a disagreement in there at the end. That's good stuff.
So I don't know what we're going to talk about next week, but we'll figure that out. We'll
Yeah,
get
we
back to
shouldn't
you.
even tell you. It'll be in the title of the episode.
Yeah. But is there anything else you wanted to say before we close out?
No, absolutely not. You've got it.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.